my name's Pat and I work in theater. My brothers and I, like Adam's a composer, Jeff's a musician. The reason I mentioned that my family spent time off the island is that that's the history of all Newfoundlanders. Like the Foran family's been in this city since 1812. And if you go back through the family tree, it's full of examples of people in our family, having children. Those children grow up, they get to a certain point and they leave. And so there's Forans that went to Massachusetts, they went to New York, they went to Cape Breton, they went elsewhere. And in the pre-Confederate era, they don't come back. They leave and they don't come back. In this time where Newfoundland is part of Canada, there's something to come back to. There's other things happening here. And I'm not going to say that that's exclusively Confederation. Part of it is technology and how energy works and transportation, all that stuff. But the big difference is in the late 90s, there was something that brought my family back here. The conversations that I remember most were more about the things that happened post-Confederation that drove my parents to leave the province in 1976. So the Churchill Falls deal in particular really bothered my dad. The other conversation around Confederation in our family is my grandfather. I'm 43. My grandfather lived to be 41 years old, and he died in 1952. He's probably one of the first Newfoundlanders whose family received benefits from what we now call workers' health safety compensation. So he died in a workplace accident. He fell off the roof of the Labrador orphanage while working on the roof there. And I wish I'd gotten to know him. He built the family house on Rankin Street. But anyway, he dies in 1952. My dad is an infant. And one of the few things that survives from him is a flyer that is, now proudly framed and in my parents' home. And it says, this house is voting for responsible economic union with the United States. So that we forget sometimes, all these years later, that there were only two sides. There were a whole pile of arguments taking place at that time. And so that's, it's so long before I was even considered, right? So, but I wish I could have met my grandfather and gotten his take on it. And my great-grandfather was a newsman. He worked for the Daily News. He also didn't live very long. He died when he was 50. But he actually started a newspaper after he left the Daily News. He printed a newspaper out of their home on Holloway Street called The Saturday Night. And it was, we would call it propaganda today, but it was very much against the Squires government. And it was so I think probably Newfoundland in the 20s and 30s in the lead up to Confederation was going through a lot of turmoil. And it's hard for us to, as we sit here in an air-conditioned theater, it's hard for us to understand the decisions people were making. I look at what I do for a living. So I've been working in theater, since I finished high school, pretty much. So just last week, 25 years I've been involved in theater. And so I remember, say, the Magnetic North Festival that happened here in 2006, brought a slew of Canadian productions to St. John's that were on stage next to shows from this community. And audiences here really responded to that. And then I look at the work I do with Artistic Fraud. It's largely about fostering relationships with theaters and audiences outside of this place. We have to remember, this is a small market that we have here, a city of 110,000 people, maybe a broader area of 200,000 people. You're lucky if you get 2,000 or 3,000 people out to see an original production for a few weeks. Well, one of the shows I produced here on this stage in 2018, It did, I think we did 10 nights here with Between Breaths. That show has now done well over 130 performances. It's played all the Atlantic provinces. It's played throughout Ontario. It was on its way out west when the pandemic shut down the whole industry. And I don't want to take for granted that we have that freedom of mobility. It's actually enshrined in the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, right? I think it's Article 6 about the ability to move between provinces. And you know, it would be speculation to say, well, if we're not part of Canada, we could still move back and forth. I don't know. We don't see a ton of plays going back and forth to St. Pierre, right? That's closer. I think it's a net positive because if you're working in the arts, you need to find your audience. The audience for work from Newfoundland, A, yes, is here, but B, is on the mainland. There's tons of Newfoundlanders on the mainland that want to see us succeed, just in just about every market. And theater's starting to do it. Our music industry's been doing it for decades.